51. Dawn over Dur Untash sacred city priest descending the ziggurat steps after night ritual, while narrator scholar walks slowly across temple courtyard camera, tracking behind him with warm sunrise light. 52. Wide aerial shot circling the massive ziggurat of Dur Untash, surrounded by desert plains and canals bringing water to the city workers, beginning their daily routines below. 53. Ceremonial placement of the stele of Naram Sin inside the royal palace courtyard of Susa. 82. Priests and nobles admiring the stele of Hammurabi, now displayed in the Elamite capital. 83. Narrator scholar walking through the palace treasury, where stolen statues and monuments stand side by side. 84. Montage showing Elam controlling vast trade routes, while merchants carry tin, copper and lapis lazuli across Eurasian caravan routes. 85. Wide cinematic view of Persepolis ruins under bright desert sunlight. 522. Wind blowing across carved stone staircases decorated with tribute processions. 523. Tourists walking among the ancient reliefs carved more than 2 millennia ago. 524. Narrator scholar standing beside the reliefs depicting people from many nations. 525. Close shot of carved figures representing the diversity of the Persian Empire. 526. Historians explaining how administration united many cultures under one system. 527. Map animation illustrating trade and communication routes of the empire. 528. Narrator scholar watching caravans recreated across desert landscapes. 529. Merchants traveling along the royal road between distant cities. 530. Close shot of a courier carrying imperial documents across rugged terrain. 531. Narrator scholar reflecting on the power of information and communication. 532. Transition showing the slow disappearance of Elamite language from daily use. 533. Ancient tablets fading into the background as new scripts appear in history. 534. Narrator scholar holding one surviving tablet symbolizing the last echo of the language. 535. Scholars discussing how entire languages can vanish over centuries. 536. Close shot of broken tablets representing fragments of forgotten history. 537. Narrator scholar walking through silent ruins under evening light. 538. Long shadow stretching across Persepolis terraces at sunset. 539. Wide cinematic aerial view of the ruins surrounded by mountains. 540. Narrator scholar reflecting silently on the rise and fall of civilizations. 541. Scene showing modern cities of the Middle East illuminated at night. 542. Transition linking ancient empires with the modern world. 543. Narrator scholar observing the continuity of human societies across time. 544. Close shot of museum visitors reading descriptions beside ancient tablets. 545. Children looking with curiosity at the ancient writing. 546. Narrator scholar watching as new generations discover ancient history. 547. Wide shot of Persepolis ruins glowing in golden sunset light. 548. Wind moving across the empty terraces where imperial administrators once worked. 549. Narrator scholar holding the tablet toward the horizon as daylight fades. 550. Cinematic view of Persepolis under twilight symbolizing the endurance of memory across time. 551. Narrator scholar standing on the high terrace of Persepolis, watching the first light of dawn over the ancient ruins. 552. Slow aerial shot revealing the vast stone complex stretching across the plateau. 553. Wind moving gently across carved staircases where tribute processions are still etched in stone. 554. Narrator scholar running his hand across ancient carvings weathered by millennia. 555. Close shot of a carved delegation figure symbolizing distant nations of the Persian Empire. 556. Cinematic transition showing ancient delegations arriving at Persepolis during the height of the empire. 557. Recreated scene of scribes recording tribute shipments on clay tablets. 558. Narrator scholar observing the bustling administrative life of the ancient capital. 559. Visual transition back to the silent ruins in the modern era. 560. Close shot of broken columns silhouetted against the morning sky. 561. Tourists slowly walking through the monumental gate of all nations. 562. Narrator scholar watching modern visitors exploring the ancient site. 563. Camera moving across relief panels showing people from many lands bringing gifts. 564. Historians explaining how Persepolis symbolized unity across cultures. 565. Close shot of the intricate craftsmanship of the Achaemenid stone reliefs. 566. Narrator scholar reflecting silently beside the massive palace stairway. 567. Wide aerial shot revealing the surrounding mountains of the Iranian plateau. 568. Time transition showing centuries passing across the ruins. 569. Close shot of sand and wind gradually shaping the ancient stones. 570. Narrator scholar holding the Elamite tablet discovered from the archive. 571. Transition to museum scene where similar tablets are preserved in glass cases. 572. Visitors are observing the small clay objects that once governed an empire. 573. Close macro shot of Elamite characters pressed into clay thousands of years ago. 574. Narrator scholar contemplating the endurance of written knowledge. 575. Scene showing modern scholars continuing research on Persepolis tablets. 576. Computer screens displaying digital reconstructions of damaged inscriptions. 577. Historians collaborating across continents to understand ancient administration. 578. Narrator scholar watching researchers decode fragments of the past. 579. Map visualization connecting ancient Persia with modern global scholarship. 580. Aerial map transition illustrating Elamite dominance over trade networks connecting Central Asia to Mesopotamia. 86. Palace council scene where Elamite rulers discuss expanding campaigns deeper into Mesopotamia. 87. Scene of Elamite armies marching again while supply caravans struggle to keep pace across harsh desert terrain. 88. Close shot of tired soldiers and strained animals, revealing the growing logistical burden of endless wars. 89. Wide shot of libraries and archives storing the translated tablets. 581. Close shot of a researcher carefully turning pages of translation notes. 582. Narrator scholar walking through a modern archive filled with preserved history. 583. Cinematic transition showing ancient scribes fading into modern historians. 584. Symbolic scene connecting past knowledge with present understanding. 585. Narrator scholar stepping outside the archive into the open landscape. 586. Sunset spreading golden light across the ruins of Persepolis. 587. Long shadows stretching across the ancient terraces. 588. Wide aerial shot slowly rising above the archaeological site. 589. Wind carrying dust across the silent stone structures. 590. Narrator scholar looking toward distant mountains beyond the ruins. 591. Visual montage showing ancient Elam Persian administration and modern discoveries. 592. Close shot of the Elamite tablet illuminated by the final light of sunset. 593. Narrator scholar placing the tablet gently on a stone ledge overlooking Persepolis. 594. Twilight descending across the ancient ceremonial capital. 595. Stars slowly appearing above the ruins in the desert sky. 596. Narrator scholar standing silently under the night sky, reflecting on lost civilizations. 597. Camera slowly pulling away from the figure among the ruins. 598. Wide night shot of Persepolis beneath a vast field of stars. 599. Wind whispering across the terraces where empires once ruled. 600. Final cinematic shot of Persepolis under starlight, symbolizing the enduring memory of the Elamite and Persian civilizations. Narrator scholar observing military camps stretching across the desert at sunset. 90. Dark transition scene, hinting at a rising threat in the north as distant armies gather beyond the horizon. 91. Introduction of Assyrian Empire with massive fortified city walls and disciplined armies training in formation. 92. Assyrian engineers testing siege machines while generals study battle maps inside a war tent. 93. Close dramatic shot introducing Assyrian king Ashurbanipal seated on an ornate throne surrounded by scribes. 94. Assyrian army marching in perfect formation across a vast plain with chariots and armored infantry. 95. Map transition showing growing tension between Elam and the powerful Assyrian Empire. 96. Elamite King Tumen addressing his army before marching toward Babylon to challenge Assyria. 97. Large battlefield scene near the Ulai River as Elamite and Assyrian armies prepare for confrontation. 98. Soldiers charging into battle with chariots racing across the dusty field and arrows darkening the sky. 99. Dramatic moment of King Tumen's chariot surrounded during the chaos of battle. 100. Final cinematic shot showing the wounded King Tumen attempting to stand among fallen soldiers as Assyrian troops close in camera, slowly pulling back into the smoky battlefield. 101. Battlefield beside the Ulai River covered with dust and fallen soldiers wounded King Tumen trying to stand beside his broken chariot while Assyrian warriors advance camera slowly circling him. 102. Close dramatic shot of Assyrian soldiers surrounding Tumen's spears pointed toward him as he collapses to his knees in exhaustion. 103. Assyrian officer raising a curved sword and executing Tumen while soldiers hold his body camera tight close up, emphasizing the brutal moment. 104. Assyrian soldiers lifting Tumen's severed head on a spear as a signal of victory, battlefield chaos continuing behind them. 105. Messenger riders racing across plains carrying news of victory toward the Assyrian capital. 106. Massive gates of Nineveh opening as the victorious army returns in triumph carrying banners and trophies from Elam. 107. Assyrian king Ashurbanipal watching the returning army from palace balcony while courtiers stand beside him. 108. Soldiers presenting the severed head of Tumen before Ashurbanipal in the royal courtyard. 109. Court scribes recording the victory on clay tablets while artists sketch scenes that will later become palace reliefs. 110. Stone sculptors carving the famous relief, showing Tumen's defeat into palace walls under torchlight. 111. Narrator scholar walking slowly through the palace hall of Nineveh, observing the carved stone panels of the battle. 112. Close shot of the relief showing Tumen's head held before the king during a royal banquet scene. 113. Assyrian generals discussing strategy over large clay maps showing Elamite territory. 114. Ashurbanipal ordering installation of puppet rulers in Elam while pointing toward the map. 115. Scene showing two rival Elamite princes being crowned separately in different cities under Assyrian supervision. 116. Montage of divided Elamite territories with competing rulers, weakening the once powerful kingdom. 117. Narrator scholar traveling through Elamite countryside, witnessing political fragmentation and tension. 118. Farmers harvesting grain in Elamite fields despite instability, while caravans continue trading. 119. Quiet moment inside Susa Palace where anxious nobles debate the Assyrian threat. 120. Time passes as uneasy peace settles across Elamite lands. 121. Interior temple scene with priest lighting incense before statues of Elamite gods. Camera slow dolly through columns toward glowing altar. 54. Narrator scholar studying carved inscriptions on temple walls describing Untash Napirisha's achievements. Torchlight flickering across ancient brickwork. 55. Long shot showing canals carrying water through terracotta channels into reservoirs inside the city, while laborers maintain the system under blazing sun. 56. Scene in Babylon where Ashurbanipal's brother, Shamash Shum-Ukin, secretly meets rebellious allies. 122. Messengers traveling from Babylon to Elam, seeking support against the Assyrian king. 123. Elamite rulers debating whether to support the Babylonian rebellion against Assyria. 124. Elamite army units marching quietly across borders to aid Babylonian rebels. 125. Assyrian spies observing troop movements and reporting back to Nineveh. 126. Ashurbanipal receiving intelligence reports and reacting with cold determination. 127. Massive Assyrian army assembling outside Nineveh with thousands of soldiers preparing for campaign. 128. Engineers loading siege equipment onto carts while infantry units form disciplined ranks. 129. Epic aerial shot of the Assyrian army marching east toward Elam across vast desert plains. 130. Narrator scholar watching the enormous army from a hill as dust clouds cover the horizon. 131. Citizens of Susa anxiously closing city gates as rumors of the approaching army spread. 132. Elamite defenders preparing weapons along city walls while families gather supplies. 133. Assyrian army surrounding Susa with siege camps and banners forming a ring around the city. 134. Siege towers rolling toward the walls while archers launch volleys of arrows. 135. Intense battle atop city walls as Elamite defenders fight desperately against attackers. 136. Gates of Susa finally broken open by Assyrian battering rams with soldiers storming inside. 137. Assyrian troops flooding into streets of Susa while terrified citizens flee through narrow alleys. 138. Fire spreading across rooftops as soldiers loot temples and palaces. 139. Narrator scholar standing among burning streets watching centuries of civilization collapse. 140. Assyrian soldiers tearing copper decorations from the great ziggurat of Susa. 141. Priests desperately attempting to protect sacred statues before they are seized. 142. Assyrian troops carrying away statues of Elamite gods as spoils of war. 143. Tombs of ancient Elamite kings being broken open by soldiers searching for treasures. 144. Bones of past rulers scattered under harsh sunlight as grave chambers are desecrated. 145. Ashurbanipal soldiers destroying temple complexes leaving only rubble and smoke. 146. Assyrian scribes documenting the destruction while officers supervise the devastation. 147. Scene of soldiers spreading salt across agricultural fields around Susa. 148. Wide cinematic shot of ruined Susa silent under grey sky while smoke drifts across broken buildings. 149. Narrator scholar walking slowly through the devastated ruins picking up a broken clay tablet. 150. Final dramatic shot showing the once great city of Susa reduced to empty ruins as wind blows dust through shattered gates. 151. Slow cinematic shot of abandoned ruins of Susa under grey sky while desert wind blows dust through broken temples, narrator scholar walking alone through shattered streets. 152. Close shot of narrator scholar kneeling beside cracked clay tablets, half buried in sand gently brushing dust away. 153. Wide aerial shot revealing vast empty plains around Susa, where fields once grew grain, now barren with scattered ruins. 154. Assyrian soldiers marching away from the destroyed city, carrying carts full of treasure and statues of Elamite gods. 155. Caravan of prisoners from Elam walking under guard across the desert toward Assyrian territory. 156. Transition to the massive Assyrian capital Nineveh, bustling with soldiers, merchants, and scribes recording war spoils. 157. Palace courtyard scene where treasures taken from Susa are displayed before Ashurbanipal. 158. Court scribes engraving new clay tablets praising the king's destruction of Elam. 159. Stone sculptors carving relief panels showing burning cities and captured enemies onto palace walls. 160. Narrator scholar walking through the great library of Ashurbanipal, observing thousands of clay tablets stacked on shelves. 161. Close shot of scribes copying texts and preserving knowledge under dim oil lamps. 162. Dramatic sunset over Nineveh, showing towering city walls and massive gates crowded with activity. 163. Quiet moment where narrator scholar gazes toward the horizon as dark clouds gather, symbolizing coming collapse. 164. Map transition showing new alliances forming between Babylonians and Medes against Assyria. 165. Slow cinematic shot of the sacred city, gradually emptying over time, abandoned courtyards and silent temples, as desert wind blows sand across stone floors. 57. Time-lapse style transition, showing centuries passing as the once busy Dur Untash becomes partially abandoned ruins in the desert. 58. Narrator scholar walking through the quiet ruins of Dur Untash cloak, moving in the wind as he looks up at the towering but silent ziggurat. 59. Babylonian leaders secretly meeting with Median envoys planning rebellion against the Assyrian Empire. 166. Warriors from many tribes assembling in a hidden mountain valley preparing for war against Nineveh. 167. Massive coalition army marching toward Assyrian territory across rugged landscapes. 168. Assyrian scouts spotting distant enemy forces and racing back to warn the capital. 169. Alarm spreading through Nineveh as soldiers rush to defensive positions along city walls. 170. Coalition army surrounding Nineveh with thousands of tents forming a siege camp around the city. 171. Siege towers and battering rams approaching the walls while arrows darken the sky. 172. Fierce battle on Nineveh's walls as defenders fight desperately against the coalition forces. 173. Flooded river breaking through weakened city defenses during the long siege. 174. Coalition soldiers pouring through broken gates into the once invincible Assyrian capital. 175. Massive fires erupting across Nineveh as palaces and temples begin to burn. 176. Citizens fleeing through smoke-filled streets while soldiers clash among burning buildings. 177. Dramatic wide shot of Ashurbanipal's great palace engulfed in flames collapsing into ruins. 178. Narrator scholar standing on distant hill, watching the fall of the empire that destroyed Susa. 179. Dawn after the destruction revealing Nineveh reduced to smoking ruins across the plain. 180. Time-lapse transition showing centuries passing as both Susa and Nineveh lie buried beneath earth and sand. 181. Slow return to Susa where small settlements begin to appear again among ancient ruins. 182. Farmers plowing fields near broken walls while traders cautiously reopen caravan routes. 183. Narrator scholar observing new life emerging slowly in the shadow of ancient ruins. 184. Local rulers rebuilding small temples and administrative buildings within Susa. 185. Scene of scribes once again writing on clay tablets in the Elamite language. 186. Caravan routes reconnecting Central Asia to Mesopotamia, passing once again through the region. 187. Mountain landscape of Persis, where a new rising family of rulers begins gaining power. 188. Young Persian warriors training in the foothills of the Zagros Mountains. 189. Introduction of a noble Persian leader. Cyrus standing confidently among his followers. 190. Cyrus addressing tribal leaders around a fire as they pledge loyalty to his cause. 191. Persian warriors marching under Cyrus across rugged terrain, gathering support from many tribes. 192. Battle scene, where Cyrus defeats the Median king Astyages and claims leadership. 193. Celebration among Persian and Elamite supporters as Cyrus becomes ruler of a growing empire. 194. Cyrus entering the ancient city of Susa peacefully greeted by local elites. 195.